Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here today. My name is William Scott Owens. My friends and family call me Scott. I'm here to talk about a program that's helping wounded veterans get their lives back. With all the bad news coming out about veteran unemployment, you might appreciate about hearing about a veteran who turned out okay, but I didn't do it alone. I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Army, and so was my grandfather. I joined the Army in 2000. I was 21 years old. I went to basic training in airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia. I became an infantryman, known as 11 Bravo, also called grunts or ground pounders. After airborne school, I was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, not too far from here, and they're the home of the 101st Airborne Division. While I was there, I trained as the platoon RTO, or radio telephone operator, the guy that carries the radio in the man pack. On September 11th, 2001, I was sitting in the chow hall eating breakfast, and I was watching television. I saw the airplanes hit the Twin Towers, and I actually thought that they were talking about a movie. And next thing you know, a sergeant comes in and says, "Swallow what you have in your mouth and report to your units immediately." It was a matter of time before we would deploy. My unit got their orders, and on April 1st, 2003, we landed in Najaf, Iraq. I was permanently disabled there my second day there. We were given a mission to clear a compound said to be housing the Fedayeen, Saddam's special forces, who were notorious for their cruelty to the Iraqi civilians. As we got closer, we started taking fire from a sniper up in a tower. We got a call that mortar rounds were coming from both directions, and we needed to get to safety right away. Soon mortar rounds began falling from the sky. A mortar round looks like a football with fins on it. It's shot out of a tube and can be set to explode either on the ground or in the air. It makes a very loud explosion and leaves a crater. Most mortar rounds have a kill radius of 35 meters, so I'd say maybe from the back of the room to the front of the room, and a danger radius of 100 meters, about the length of a football field, give or take a few feet. You have to be about 100 meters away from the explosion to come away unscathed. Mortar rounds can cause injuries a few different ways. You can get hit by shrapnel, you can get burned by the explosion, or you can get brain damage from the concussive force of the explosion, or a combination of all three. I was near the compound wall when the mortar rounds started exploding. I was in the kill zone for at least 5 explosions. I felt like I was in a 4D movie that day. The only reason I didn't die right there is because there was a stone wall in between me and the explosion. If the wall wasn't there, somebody else would be giving this speech today. I survived, but I wasn't unscathed. The concussive blast blew me forward and knocked me out. I cannot remember anything that happened for a few weeks after that. My memory is a bit hazy, but family and friends, people that I served with, are helping to fill in some of the missing pieces. In the infantry, if you still have your arms, legs, and sight, you're going to go back to work. So I went back to work, but there was something different about me after that day. Something wasn't right. I was forgetting things that were important in my job. I could not remember call signs that I needed to remember, among other things. So I requested to go back to the line as a rifleman instead of being a radio telephone operator. I finished my 13-month tour and went on to serve another 6-month tour. I got new injuries, things that I just had to live with until my time in the Army was over with. I broke a bone in my spine during a firefight, I tore a ligament in my foot, and lost hearing in both ears, among other things. Infantrymen take pride in being tough and independent, but all of those injuries made it difficult to keep up with the other soldiers. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had disabilities that I was trying to hide. I loved being part of the Army. I took pride in my job, but at 30 years old, I felt like an old man who just couldn't keep up. I told Shannon I didn't want to hide my injuries anymore. So in 2009, when my commitment with the Army was complete, I didn't re-enlist. My last day in the Army was June 2nd, 2009. My first day of being a civilian felt strange, empty, and exciting all at the same time. I was excited to start my new life, but the pressure was on to find work. I had a family to support, with a 2-year-old daughter and another one on the way, but I felt confident that I would find a job soon. I had 9 years in the Army with a pattern of hard work and promotion. I had taken on leadership roles. I had administrative experience, and I had a good work ethic. Even if I didn't get a job right away, I had a safety net. I had a nest egg saved up. It was going to be a down payment on a house. It took me 3 years to save that money. I had that as a cushion, but I really didn't want to touch it. Meanwhile, I was dealing with some service-related medical and emotional issues. I was having migraine headaches and seizures, where my body would lock up and I would just stop breathing. I was going in and out of the hospital for that. We even kept smelling salts in the house because I was having seizures about 2 times a month. Then there were some smaller issues that were just plain weird. I was losing my memory. I would go outside to mow the lawn, something I had done thousands of times, and I'd just stand there for 15 minutes because I couldn't remember what it was that I had gone out there to do. Another time I was on my way to Walmart and I couldn't remember how to get there. I had some weird emotional changes too. I was having nightmares almost every night. My wife said one night I crawled up in a ball screaming, "Did they see me? Did they see me?" I shoved my elbows in her back, climbed over her, fell off the bed, and started low crawling across the carpet. I woke up on the floor wondering what had happened and why am I sleeping on the floor. Another day I got surprised when I drove over a pothole. I didn't expect to be there. I stopped the car in the middle of the road, got out of the car, and started looking around. That might be normal in Iraq, but it's definitely not normal in America. Shannon was in the passenger seat, and it scared her half to death. She said my personality was different too. She said that I used to be a laid-back, happy-go-lucky kind of person. And when I came back, I was serious all the time, and I had lost most of the expression on my face. So I was coping with some unexpected changes while I was looking for a job. Also, my job search was taking longer than I expected. I was applying to 7 jobs a week for over a year and didn't get one phone call or interview. No response at all. I sent resumes everywhere. Pinellas County Employment Services, USA Job, temp agencies, Walmart, even McDonald's. I thought for sure at least McDonald's would hire me. I called McDonald's and they said, "We got your resume, but you're overqualified to work here." I thought, how am I overqualified? I've never worked fast food in my life. With 2 kids to feed, my savings was gone in 18 months. I worked 3 years to save that, and it was gone. My wife and I started accepting donations from our church and other organizations. I felt panicked, depressed, and trapped. Just surviving and getting through life seemed to be too much to handle. Mentally, I was hanging by a thread. We got a bill in the mail for electricity. We didn't have the money to pay it. I asked the utility company for some kind of financial aid. They gave us a break on the bill and said not to expect this again. It was a one-time thing. They said that it was a helping hand, not a handout, and I'm not the kind of person to go looking for a handout. For 9 years in the Army, I did my part and served my country. I was happy to do it. I took on extra responsibilities. I took pride in my work. I didn't think this could ever happen to me. I started wondering, why is transitioning to the civilian world so difficult? All I need is one decent job. Nobody's calling me. Employers didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with myself either. I was just lost. Just getting by was a struggle, and I needed some relief. I started thinking some dark thoughts. I thought that if I died, I could actually provide for my family through my life insurance policy. Then one day I said what I had been thinking for months out loud. I told my wife that I would be more valuable to our family if I just shot myself. They say it's darkest before the dawn. Well, that was true for me. Saying those words changed everything. Shannon called the veteran helpline. An ambulance came and took me to the VA where I got some help. 3 important things came from this hospital visit. After a year of delayed appointments, I got an official diagnosis from the VA. There's a well-known backlog of paperwork in the VA, and I was trapped in this backlog. So just getting this diagnosis was a huge accomplishment. My diagnosis is mild to severe traumatic brain injury, or TBI, seizure activity brought on by severe migraines, and memory loss. I also have severe post-traumatic stress disorder, bilateral hearing loss, which means hearing loss in both ears, and tinnitus, which is the ringing in the ears, among other health problems. Because of this diagnosis, I was qualified for 90% disability compensation. The VA started the process for getting me back wages for an entire year. And third, I was matched with a vocational training program to help me find a job. It's called ServiceSource. They have a program designed to help veterans with disability called the Warrior Bridge. I sat down with Muriel Boyson of ServiceSource in November 2010 and showed her my resume. She said I had a lot of transferable skills and valuable experience, but my resume was too military focused for the civilian world. She helped me understand what the job market was looking for, and I rewrote my resume with Muriel's recommendations. That winter I went through vocational rehabilitation. I wasn't ready to get a job market yet, but Muriel was preparing me for the job market. In the springtime, Muriel called me with an opportunity that she thought would be a good fit for me. She said ServiceSource was looking for wounded veterans to perform contract closeout for the DoD. It required working with people using administrative skills and having a fine attention to detail. She thought it would be perfect. I sent my resume and got called in for an interview. I sent out thousands of resumes, and this was the only interview that I had gotten in 2.5 years. But all I needed was that one. 10 tons of weight was lifted off of my shoulder when they told me I got this job. I started in October 2011, and I've been there ever since. What I do is called contract closeout. It's a specialized administrative function. Basically, when someone in the government signs a contract, the money is committed for a certain number of years. When the contract is over, if there are remaining funds, money remaining on the contract needs to be removed and released back into the Treasury. It sounds simple, but it requires specialized paperwork, and not everyone knows how to do it. If the DoD buys it, from beans to bullets to tanks and aircraft, there is a contract for it. And the contracts need to be closed out at completion. So if you think about all the military bases around the world and all the contracts that they have, the paperwork can add up. Everyone who works on this contract is required to undergo Defense Acquisition University certified training. I went on a 7-day training course through ESI called International Contract Closeout. I learned things like the Federal Acquisition Regulation, contract law, and the process that all contracting officers must go through to spend government dollars. So that's the end of my story. What might this have to do with me? Well, here's some information that can help you in decision making. With the war in Iraq over and the one in Afghanistan drawing to an end, the number of veterans under or unemployed is reaching historical highs all the way across the country. It's even harder to find gainful employment if you're a disabled vet. The AbilityOne Program is prepared to provide what the wounded vet needs to succeed. The AbilityOne Program works with 600 nonprofit agencies across every state: Guam, as well as Puerto Rico. These agencies train and hire people with disabilities and wounded veterans. ServiceSource is one of these agencies. The AbilityOne Program is currently helping more than 3,000 wounded veterans like me embark on a new path, a path towards becoming honorable citizens, taxpayers, and contributors to the success of the American economy. Thanks to the AbilityOne Program, ServiceSource was awarded the contract that I'm proud to work on. I'm part of a team that consists of 4 wounded warriors, 2 soldiers, and 2 Marines. But I like to think we have a lot more to offer as well. Remember, there are some important values that veterans have instilled to them from the first day they enter the military. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Put it all together and you get leadership. Other qualities veterans bring to the table were mission-focused, oriented, disciplined, motivated, and work well under pressure. I say that to say disability does not mean inability. Advancements in computer technology have created the opportunities for those with physical limitations to overcome challenges and accomplish tasks like contract closeout, for example. In conclusion, I'd like to share a quote from President Abraham Lincoln. He said, "Let us strive on to finish the work we were in, to bind up our nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan." Caring for veterans is a cause that is close to my heart, and I know that the AbilityOne program helps to fulfill President Lincoln's vision because I'm living proof. Some of these things are not easy to talk about, but I hope it will help some other veterans out there as well. Before I go, I'd like to ask each of you to do me one small favor. The next time a contract requirement comes across your desk, would you find out if an AbilityOne agency can perform it? This would mean a lot to me and the 3,000 other veterans who are working through this program. And the next time you see "Oh Glory in the Wind," remember the AbilityOne program and how it's helping those who have given so much to protect this country. Thank you.